Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Heart and Health Wellness. I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Welch, and I'm so glad that you are here. This is the return. It's a working mom interview series. We're on episode 4 now, and I want to be honest with you. This one is a lot in the best possible way, but I just want to be totally honest. If you are new here, this is a series of 6 real conversations with working moms about what going back to work after a baby actually looks like. So each story is different, and this week's is one that I think you need to hear. My guest today is Jordan. She is the co-founder and director of operations for a company called Virtual Office Partners in Arizona, a mom to her 15-month-old son, Waylon, and someone who has been through more in her first year of motherhood than most people would know how to survive. And I mean that truly. An emergency C-section with no anesthesia, a son who needed weeks of specialist care for a misdiagnosed tongue and lip tie, a boss who called her the day after Christmas, 2 weeks postpartum, and never really stopped, and then being let go at 10 weeks, right when she needed stability the most. But here's the thing about Jordan. She tells this story with so much grace and self-awareness and even laughter in places. And the advice that she gives on the other side of it is some of the most practical, clear-eyed wisdom in this whole series. I'm really glad she said yes to this conversation. So I'm excited for you to hear it. Let's get into it. Well, hi, Jordan, and welcome. Thank you for joining me. If we can go ahead and just get started with you introducing yourself, kind of tell everybody who you are, where you're from, what you do or what you enjoy, things like that.
Yeah, my name is Jordan, and I was actually born in Wyoming, born and raised there, but currently live in Arizona with my husband and my 15-month-old son. And I currently am like the co-founder and director of operations for a company called Virtual Office Partners. And what we do is we offer back office support to small and medium-sized businesses that maybe just need a little bit of help, but don't really need to hire somebody full time. So,
Very
yeah, that's
nice.
kind of the gist.
Nice, nice. Thank you. So tell us like 2 fun facts about you, either something that you enjoy doing when you have time, or I don't know, something that most people wouldn't know about you.
Let's see. A long time ago, before I became a mom and kind of settled down, I actually had a pilot's license. So
That's
I
so
really,
cool.
really enjoyed, aeronautics and flying helicopters and things like that. So
Okay.
that's kind of like, long time ago, past life, fun stuff.
That is so cool.
Outside of that, really, I absolutely just love being a mom. I love my son. I love being a mom. Love, our family time and, go to the park with my son and my husband and the dog. And that's really just like favorite times.
Nice. I love it. What kind of dog do you have?
She's mixed. She's like just full mutt. We think she has a little pit in her, but yeah, we're not 100% sure. She is a lover. She's not a protector.
She's like, "No, I'm just gonna hang out on the couch, y'all deal with it."
Yes, if somebody is at the door, she immediately runs to them, like, wagging a tail, like, "Ooh, who's here to see me?"
New friends, new friends. I don't have
Yes.
dogs, but I love dogs, and we have a kitty cat, and she's a lot of fun, but she likes strangers as well, but definitely not a protector, so we have that in
Yeah.
common. Before we go any further, I wanna tell you about one of my favorite finds as a working mom, and honestly as someone who loves giving a really good gift to another mom. We're Amma makes jewelry and gifts designed specifically for moms, and I'm not just saying this because I actually have and love their cocoon and the halo necklace, and I reach for both of them all the time. They're beautiful, they're meaningful, and they feel like something that you actually choose for yourself rather than something that just ended up in your cart at 11 p.m., because we all know what that's like. They have so much more than what I personally have. Their new mama bundle is a wonderful gift if you know someone who just had a baby, great for a baby shower gift. And they just dropped a beautiful new color called Rose in the cocoon, which I'm very into. They have a new half moon necklace too that's on my wish list. And there's truly something for every mom over there. So you can shop everything at wearealma.com/Melissa, or you can use the code Melissa for 15% off of your order. And that's on top of any sales that they're having already. Full transparency, I do earn a small commission when you shop through my link, which helps keep this show going. So thank you in advance if you do. And let's get back to the conversation. Okay, so let's talk about your son, the fun stuff. So he's 15 months
Ugh.
old now. What is he like? What is he into? What stage are y'all at?
Oh my gosh, we are in the full-blown toddler tantrum, terrible two stage. We are, walking, talking, screaming, throwing fits, loving it. He loves
Yep.
all things puzzles and books. This kid could
Nice.
sit and read books for hours. He is so funny, makes us laugh every single day about something. And he is also a lover, loves to give hugs and kisses, but is still very much so like mommy and daddy. Like he'll kind of
Uh-huh.
wander off a little bit, but still pretty attached.
Oh, so sweet. Yeah, that all sounds very developmentally appropriate. I know when we were at that stage, so my son will be 3 and 3 months. So we're almost
Okay.
to three. I always thought the toddler terrible twos was a thing. And when we were at 1.5 or whatever, I had no
Mm,
idea it was starting that early. It really took me off guard.
yeah. Yeah. Just actually just this past Easter, we had, visiting the Easter bunny, and they had these like giant eggs set up, and he probably ruined about 15 to 20 kids' Easter photos. Just took off running in the thing and then would just scream bloody murder when he, wasn't his turn. So yeah, little embarrassing, but what can you do at that stage? You just there's no negotiations.
No, you just embrace it, and every other
Yeah.
parent there understands because they've been there too, and
Hmm.
so I feel like I have so much more empathy for other parents now that I'm in it, and I'm just like, "Yep, I know what you're going through, I get it, it's all
Yep.
good."
Yeah.
Nice.
I always said I was gonna be one of those moms that just like, my kid will never do that. No, I'm one of those moms.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotional regulation that goes on, a lot of deep
Yeah.
breathing.
Yep.
Okay, so you and I obviously have already chatted a little bit about
Hmm.
the intense situation of getting started as a mother. But I guess for everybody
Yeah.
listening or watching in, give us kind of the overview of kind of what y'all went through with his birth and what your work situation was like at that time.
Yes. So I was working full time for a company. I had been there almost 4 years. There
Okay.
was no maternity leave policy, like a specific policy in the handbook, because it was a smaller company.
Okay.
But prior to, I was actually induced. So prior into my induction date, we had had several meetings with HR and had decided that if everything went good during birth, I would have 10 weeks of maternity leave. And if things were a little bit complicated, I would have up to 12. During that, I would phase in shortly 2 weeks prior to that. So if I would have 10 weeks, I would
Okay.
start back at 8 weeks. And if I had 12 weeks, I would start back at 10.
Kind of like on a
So
part-time basis
kind
or
of,
something just to get your
yeah,
feet
just
wet
kind of
again.
easing back in for 2 weeks.
Okay.
She's a mother of 4, and so she
Your
had
boss was or
actually
your manager
my
was?
yeah, my
Okay.
boss was at the time. She was a mother of 4 kids, and so that was her suggestion, was to take the 2 weeks to kinda get your bearings and then come back full time instead of just coming back full time right away.
Okay.
So, I was actually induced on December 9th, the evening of December 9th.
Okay.
And I was in labor for several days. I was not dilating. We ended up having my son Waylon. We had him December 13th. We ended up having to have an emergent C-section. His heart rate was just dropping below. Unfortunately, during that whole emergent situation, I was not able to be on any meds or anything when they started cutting me open. My husband was not in the room. It was
Mhm.
extremely emergent. Son's heart rate had stopped, and so they had to get him out just as quickly as possible. So as soon as they were able to get him out, obviously he had to go and be resuscitated. Thankfully, my husband was in there at that point, and I kind of
Okay.
sent my husband to go be with my son because I was,
Mhm.
just very worried at that point. And that was when I ended up losing consciousness. So I was in and out, and they kept having to like wake me up and rub my chest several times and just tell me like, "Hey, you need to wake up. You have to, you know, you need to stay with us and meet your son," and things like that. they'd called for a
Mhm.
crash cart and different things like that, but thankfully just didn't kind of come to that. Later on, my husband said that he just was so fearful because he thought he was going to walk out of that hospital with no son and no wife.
Yeah.
So it was just really emergent, really
Terrible.
scary. And so, yeah, I had this emergent C section, and then I ended up having complications after that because the incision was crooked. So
Okay.
it was just, yeah. So my body was just like fighting things all
Mm.
over. And I just kind of went into like a fight or flight mode. And we left the hospital, I think it was like 36 hours after he was born. We were like,
Wow.
I was like, I want to leave. I want to go home.
Get me away from this
And
place.
yes. And so I can laugh about this now, but this took a really long time to just like for
Yes,
me to just like be okay with this part.
absolutely.
And so we ended up coming home. I could not even crawl into bed, so I had to like sleep on the couch for like a month. It was absolutely the recovery was absolutely miserable. So
Mm.
because my C-section was so emergent and because there was like no anesthesia and things like that, I had like severe trauma to my body and I just was like I was not like mentally, physically, or emotionally ready to deal with a C-section. I had it in my mind I was going to have a natural birth and that did
Mhm,
not happen. So it was a
mhm,
lot to process for me as well. Well, after that, we were also dealing with like a slew of things with my son. He was born with a tongue tie, a severe tongue tie and a lip tie that was undiagnosed in the hospital.
hmm,
Pediatrician, everybody wrote him off. Well, how we found out was his like few-day appointment. They're like, he's got a tongue tie and a lip tie. And I was also having breastfeeding problems at that time too. And so, yeah, we took him into the specialist. They cut his tongue tie, but didn't notice the lip tie or anything like that. So I was
mm.
still continuing to have breastfeeding problems. My son was up all night long
Yeah.
screaming from like 8 p.m. to he would finally just wear himself out at like 4 a.m. And
Mm.
I just had no idea what was wrong with him. And they were just like, oh, it's just colic. It's just colic. He'll grow out of it. It's normal for a baby to do this.
That was not
I
normal.
was just yeah, I'm trying to recover from a C-section. I can't even sleep in a bed. I'm trying to do all the same, and my son is just screaming for 8 plus hours a night, and I am trying to do everything I can, learning how to be a mother,
Yeah, you haven't
and
done
it
this
just
before,
was
so you're
not
literally just figuring it
exactly.
out.
And I'm just like, "I don't know. I think he's hungry." And my husband's like, "You just
Mm,
tried feeding him 2 minutes ago. I don't think he's hungry." And I'm like, "But wrong, And I just kept
mhm,
thinking, like, in my mind, he's hungry, he's hungry, he's hungry for some reason, which he
mhm,
actually was. But because of the tongue tie and the lip tie, I wasn't able to have another letdown to,
mhm.
actually feed him properly. So that took about a month, no, almost 2 months to diagnose. So we dealt with this for quite some
Wow.
time. In the midst of this, about 2 weeks postpartum, it was right after Christmas. So I had Waylon December 13th, and it was right after Christmas. It was actually December 20 or no, December 26th. It was right after Christmas, and that's when I
Literally.
got my first phone call from my boss.
Day after
And
Christmas.
she Yeah, it was the day after Christmas, and she had asked me, "How are you doing? How is everything?" And I, kind of just explained the situation to her and told her that I'm lucky to be alive. My son is lucky to be alive. We're having these issues. I'm not adjusting to motherhood very well, and just kind of expected her to be more empathetic. Well, at the very end of it, I did not get empathy. I ended up telling her all these things and, she was okay. She actually was crying on the phone, was like, "I'm so sorry." And then she asked me to log in and make sure there were things done before the end of the year. And I was like, "Well, these were done because I made sure that they were finished before I left." She goes, "Well, I really need you to go in and double check and do this." So I ended up doing that. And then the very next day, the accountant emailed me and needed me to jump on because she had a few questions of things. So I got on the next day as well, finished that. And
Mm,
then I told her, I need to get things figured out. And after that, it just started becoming twice a week, 3 times a week, having to log on and help them with something or do something, a
mm,
few hours here, a few hours there. And then by about week 4 of my maternity leave was when the threats kind of started coming in of, well, I can't afford to keep paying you and I can't afford to keep you and your son on health insurance if you're not working. And I just kept saying, well, we agreed to this
while you're on
maternity
maternity
leave
leave?
while I'm on maternity leave. I'm like, we agreed to this maternity leave. This is what we agreed to. And I said, you have no idea what I'm going through. Like, I am going to specialists for my son, trying to figure out because of the tongue tie and lip tie, the misdiagnosis. And then he ended up having a botched procedure in there. So we had to go to a different specialist and all of this. I ended up having permanent damage to my breasts, and
Mm,
I ended up not even being able to breastfeed. I had to strictly pump, which I made it to
mm,
almost a year, but I ended up having to strictly pump because
that's
I
hard.
couldn't breastfeed him anymore. And I mean, even now he's got a big gap in his front teeth because of that tongue
Mhm.
tie and stuff. But about 2 months, so it was about 8 weeks, I literally had to pack up and go back to Wyoming and just tell my mom, like, please just take care of me. Like, I need help. It
Yeah.
was just such a struggle. And at that time, by the time I was fully 6 weeks, I was working anywhere between, 20 and probably 24 hours a week. By the time I was 8 weeks postpartum, I was working around 30, 32 hours a week. And then, yeah, they ended up letting me go at 10 weeks. At 10 weeks
Wow.
postpartum, yeah, they ended up letting me go. And my boss told me it was because I cried too much.
Wow. What I
Yeah.
can't get over is that your boss was a
Mhm.
mother of 4 herself.
4 children herself. Mhm.
Like, not that any of
Yeah.
it is okay, and if it was anyone, it would be problematic, but the fact that she's a mom,
2 of her children were C-sections, and that is why she gave me 2 extra weeks of maternity leave.
but she never actually gave you that, and she was bringing
But
you
she
back
never gave me
literally
any.
weeks after he was born.
Yeah, my first day back was, I think it was literally 13 days. It wasn't even 2 weeks. 13 days after he was born was my
Yeah.
first day back at work.
What's interesting to me is the more conversations that I have with moms about their experience going back is learning about these small businesses. And I fully
Mhm.
support small business. You're a business owner yourself now, and I get the challenges, but these small businesses that just don't have any kind of policies in place, there's zero
Yeah.
protection. And
Mhm.
even when you think that you have a plan set, it doesn't play out. I mean, thank goodness you had a partner who also had income.
Oh, and you know what? I cannot praise my husband enough. I would not have made it through this year without him and with how, I mean, he was the most amazing, supportive, so amazing. I would not have made it through without, a few of those really, really close friends, but like
Mhm.
my husband was, whew, props to
Well,
that
and
man
for
for
him
putting
too,
up with
like,
me.
he also went through a traumatic
Mhm.
experience and was
Yeah.
also learning to become a parent himself, so, like, both of you were struggling and
Mhm.
trying to support each other. It's just y'all went through a lot, a lot,
Yeah.
a lot. So,
Yep.
obviously, she had originally set you up to think that when you would be
Mhm.
getting back, you'd ease your way back in.
Yep.
And then she did kind of do that just a lot sooner than you expected. But can you tell me a little bit
Mhm.
about what it was like that first week back? Like how did it go? What was surprising to you and things like that?
I mean, that first week back was it was honestly a struggle because my mind just wasn't in it. Like, I honestly just didn't
Yeah.
really care. All I could think about was the fact that I hadn't slept in days. I still could
Um,
not actually physically stand up straight. So walking to my desk, I'm, like, hunched over. I was just
just
not.
in
I
the
was in
pain.
so much pain. Well, that
Mm,
and, like, the C-section, I couldn't actually stand up straight from,
okay.
the incision and stuff. And so I'm still, like, just in so much pain, and I also refused any sort of pain meds like a
Mm.
dummy, but
When I was in the hospital, I also had a C-section, and there was one night when I was, like, crying because I couldn't get my pants up in the bathroom, and my husband heard me crying in the bathroom, and he came in, and he was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I can do it," and he said, "Melissa, we're going to ask for pain meds," and he went and got the nurse, and I was like, "I can do it."
yeah,
No, this is ridiculous, so I get
yes,
you.
yeah. So there was that. It's just my mind was not in it, my heart was not in it, my soul was not in it, and I was just like, I was honestly just really angry and I was really resentful. I'm like,
Mhm.
"What do
Of
you
course.
need?" I put in so much work. I mean, so much work, months and months prior to my maternity leave. I was a contract administrator, and then I was also a junior estimator. So at that time, not only did I land this company over $20 million worth of contracts, but I also made sure those contracts were signed. I made sure those starting dates were ready, and I made sure all of those contracts were fully built into the system, which would have taken months, months. I made
Oh
sure that was completely done before I went in. So I made sure they
Mhm.
were all set up and ready to go for success, and that
Mhm.
the only thing, somebody would have had to do was do the monthly billings on these contracts and, place the orders and, just make sure everybody was following these contracts to a T. I put
Mhm.
in an average of like 60 hours a week. I worked up until the day I was induced doing
Mhm.
everything for them.
So there's so much resentment then of like, "I prepped you for this, and all I ask is that you let me go have a baby and heal, and I will come
Yeah.
back and give you my all again,"
Yep.
to just feel totally
This,
really
yeah.
frustrated.
This woman was invited to my wedding,
Mm.
she was at my wedding. She had been a part of my life, and,
Mhm.
so it wasn't even just like this was a boss, like there was, a semi-personal, it was very
Yeah,
professional, but like still a semi-personal level
yeah.
where I was just, yeah, so that's really what it was resentment.
One of the things that you said that stood out to me a second ago was that you just didn't care, and I think that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I keep hearing come up over and over again is that, like, once you become a mom, all of the other stuff just doesn't matter that much.
Mhm.
And then especially, like, you put this part on top of it, and it makes that feel even more intense, but just the,
Mhm.
like, "This is stupid."
Yeah. Well, one of the other things that I actually realized that actually helped me kind of get into that mindset of work because, like I said, by the time I was, 6 weeks postpartum, I was back almost full time,
Mm,
and at that time, we're still going to specialists and things like that and still trying to get things fixed and, help my son and trying to find a formula that we can supplement with
mhm,
along with the breast milk and everything. So we're still struggling on that aspect. But one thing that I did end up telling one of my other friends that when she ended up going back to work because she struggled as well, I was like, you go through grief. Like you go through the
mhm,
actual stages of grief. When you go back to
mhm,
work, you have to grieve that portion of like motherhood and like that portion of your life because
mhm,
you have severe mom guilt of like, I'm not going to be with my child who needs me. And it's just, yeah, it's a struggle, but you just go through all of these stages of grief. You go through the denial stage, you go through the bargaining stage, you go
mhm.
through all these different phases of, returning to work. And then you finally get the acceptance. And then you're like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like, how do you feel like you got to that point of acceptance? What was it that helped you process through all of that?
You know, I never actually got into that stage going back to work because they ended up letting me go. And then that was when I was able to like actually throw myself into motherhood because
Hmm.
I never really was able to do that
Yeah.
previously. So that's kind of when I felt like I was able to throw myself into motherhood and like really just spend some time with my son and like adjust. I mean, that's the best word that I can think of, just adjust because I never really got that time
Mhm.
originally to
It was
adjust.
very
So
rushed.
so when they ended up letting me go, I did end up getting about 6 weeks of leave right there that I took just to, you know, take my time, adjust to motherhood. That was when like we got his tongue tie and his lip tie figured out and we were starting
Okay.
to get on a schedule. He was almost 3 months old, so we were starting to kind of get on a schedule of, feeding and naps and things like that. And so
Mhm.
that was kind of really the only time I was able to, like, accept that I was a mom at that point and, like, bond
Okay.
with my son.
Okay.
So I was able to do that, and then it wasn't until I started with VOP. And that was when at very first, that's when I struggled the most. I kind of went back into that grief side of things a little bit, just because I missed my son.
Yeah.
I really did. I missed him. I missed the time that we got to spend together, even though I got super lucky and I worked from home. So I still got to see him all the time. But I missed him. I didn't think that it was fair to him to have to, go see somebody else while I went to work, or for him to want his mom and me just not be there. So I kind of went through that grief stage, and then I kind of went all the way up to that acceptance stage. And really what kind of triggered that acceptance stage for me was knowing that what I'm doing right now is what's best for my child.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that experience of grief and missing your child is very common for working moms, and there's that constant pull of mom guilt of where am I supposed
Mhm.
to be? Where am I most needed? Where do they need me? Am I messing them up somehow? Like all of those thoughts are running through our minds. And it takes a lot of work to really get that dialed in to know that you're
Mhm.
doing something that's good for you and your family, and it's not easy. Can you tell me a little bit about how you made the choice to go back to work, go to the new company and get involved with that? Like, where did that come from? How did that come about?
So actually, I had pretty quickly after I was let go, I had started applying for jobs because we had actually looked into getting both me and my son onto my husband's health insurance. And it was just absolutely outrageous.
Hmm.
And, it would take, over 50% of his paycheck. And
Wow.
my income was down, and we can't lose 50% of his paycheck. So we actually ended up just putting my son on his health insurance. And so I went
Okay.
without, so no
Cross your
postpartum,
finger.
no, no postpartum care for me.
Even after
So
everything that you had just gone through physically.
even after everything, yes. No, unfortunately, no postpartum care for me. So I didn't get the gestational diabetes care that I needed afterwards and, things like that. But that's, besides the point, I'm, totally fine now. But so yeah, I just immediately started applying. I would only take, I don't know, maybe an hour a day. I was like ready for it,
Okay.
but not at the same time. So I just started
Okay.
applying. I'm actually the godmom of her two children,
Okay.
the owner of, VOP. And so I'm the godmama for two kids. And she's like, well, you need a job. I'm starting this company. Let's do it. I'm like,
Nice.
okay, let's do it. And so we just kind of like went in, dove headfirst. And yeah, that's kind of how that whole thing came to be. And it's honestly worked out really well. I'm really happy here. Yeah. I'm
Good.
gonna have another baby soon.
Well,
We have to
congratulations.
thank you. So we'll have to talk about maternity leave again on this one, but
Hopefully, it'll be much better this time around. Well,
I'm
so
hoping.
that's a good question then, because I was going to ask you, like, after all the things that you've experienced, what advice would you give to somebody who's working for a small company like that, a small business like that, and now you're going into it again? So I guess we'll combine that with kind of what
Mm.
are you aware of or thinking of or trying to prep for this time around?
Well, so it's really difficult. So with a smaller company, I think it's under 50 employees, you don't get it's the FMLA, I think, or something like that.
That sounds right.
There's 2 different ones. So, I don't get FMLA or anything like that. Honestly, my biggest advice is just have an open and honest conversation with your boss.
Hmm.
You have to have an open and honest conversation. You have to express your expectations or they're never going to be met. You have
Hmm.
to say, this is what I expect on my maternity leave. I never did that with my position as a contract administrator. And I really wish that I would have, voiced my expectations and just let her know that on my maternity leave, I am not available. And then maybe things would have gone a little bit differently. But, this time I'm definitely a little bit more proactive on things, letting, my boss know, hey, I expect a maternity leave this time. This is how much time I would like off and what's realistic for the company and what's realistic for you. I
Yeah.
personally cannot expect, knowing owning a small business and working for a small business, I cannot expect them to pay my salary while I'm out. I
Mm,
just can't expect that. And that's something that a lot of people may need to, like, if they get pregnant or if they're kind of coming into that situation, maybe they need to save up to take their maternity leave. Maybe they need to start doing that beforehand. You know, but I told the, co-founder, owner of the company, I told her, I think when I was just 2 months, I think I was like 8 weeks, I told her I was pregnant and have been actively talking to her about maternity leave and what that is going to look like for me this time around, and
mhm,
just the things that I think I'm going to need and really my expectations. And, I do have some specific clients that I work closely with who I've let them know, the same
mm,
thing. Hey, I am going to be taking maternity leave in September. This is kind of what that's going to look like for me. I'm going to make sure you're set up and ready to go. I'm never going to leave anybody high and dry. I'm never going to leave anybody with, unanswered questions.
mhm,
So just
yeah,
really communicate, set up for success, and, be very clear about your expectations. If you expect to have an actual maternity leave, have a maternity leave. Do not send pictures of your baby to your boss during your maternity leave. Wait until you come back. Do not open that door.
yeah. I mean, that makes it and I think for some people, they're probably like, "Oh, I'll send pictures, that's no big deal."
Mhm.
It probably depends on your situation, but for you, you really felt like you had been clear
Mhm.
and communicated ahead of time and felt like it
Mhm.
was safe to do that, and then you really got burned
Yeah.
when it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think just like that clear communication, and
Very
like I
black and
said,
white. I'm not
black and
available
white.
until
Here's
this date.
yes, wait, and then when you return, send all the pictures and do all of the things, but from the date that you go on that maternity leave, like, yeah, that's really, really my biggest suggestion. Don't open that door to allow that communication to come to you, because that's truly what I think opened the door for me. I made it clear I was going on my maternity leave, but
Mhm,
I did let them know, "Hey, I ended up having to have a C-section. Here's a picture of the baby. This is the day he was born," that type of thing. And I think that's kind of what made her more comfortable
mhm,
in her ability to reach out to me and then to start asking me. And every time she'd call, I'd answer the phone, day or night. And, that still ended up happening on maternity leave. I still ended up answering the phone for her whenever she would call, and then it progressively got worse and worse and worse, and ended up to the point where she was threatening my job and threatening my paycheck and then threatening health insurance for me and my son, and just on top of everything that we were going through postpartum. Your hormones are going crazy. You've never done anything like this
mhm.
before. Dealing with healing from a C-section, dealing with the issues that we had with my son, and then on top of that, we have health insurance and finances all being threatened as well. And it was just full blown survival mode. And I think
Yeah.
I opened that door that kind of allowed her to begin doing that.
I can see how looking back at that, you're questioning how did this happen? And so there's part of you that wonders if you led to that.
Hmm.
And if I can, I'll just encourage you, Jordan, that I don't think you did anything wrong. I think you were just trying to be a normal human
No,
mom to mom, and she took advantage of that. And
I agree.
yeah.
She took advantage of me in like a lot of other ways. So I'm not trying to say like, oh, it's totally my fault. I'm just saying like hindsight 2020. Really wish, like, if I could go back, I really wish I would have put, like, those hard boundaries, like, those hard stops in.
Mhm.
So that would be, like, my absolute biggest advice, because I'm not saying all small business owners are the same way. Trust me,
Right, right.
am a small business owner, and I'm not gonna be the same way, especially on my own maternity leave. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
it really is just yeah, just set those boundaries, set that communication. Yeah.
Well, and I think to what you just said as well, especially it's been part of my experience of everything that I've learned from my own experience of becoming a mom, being a working mom, influences how I take care of those on my team and
Mhm.
how I view their experiences of becoming moms and working moms and how I treat them and try to support them. And I think that's the best thing we can do is try to make it better for the next generation, even if they're just a couple years behind us, of
Mhm.
trying to be more supportive and create environments that feel safe and welcoming to working moms rather than it being, this negative thing.
Yeah. Well, and especially as a business owner, coming from that owner side, one thing that I want to like bring in for our employees that we have is, if any of them do end up having a maternity leave or something, just knowing and realizing that that period of coming back to work is an adjustment. It's a huge adjustment
Mhm,
for a mom. And
mhm,
not only are every single mom goes through that. And for some, it's harder than others, especially with those hormones and such. But having that empathy and bringing that empathy into the workplace to know
mhm.
like what they're going through is different for every person and every struggle is different. But just making sure that that empathy is, in the forefront of when they return.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to take a quick second to speak to a very specific mom. If you are listening to these conversations and these stories, and a part of you is thinking, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this, I want you to know that I see you, I understand, I get it. And that feeling is not a weakness. It is a signal that something needs to change. And it doesn't have to mean walking away from your career in order to change it. That is exactly what a clarity call with me is for. It's a free conversation where we figure out together what's actually going on, what's getting in the way, and what a real path forward looks like for you specifically. It's not generic advice, it's not a sales pitch, just an honest conversation with someone who works with moms in this exact place every day. We'll get on a call. We'll talk about your situation. If I think I can help, I'll let you know. If I think there's another option that's better, I'll let you know that too. So if that is you, the link to book is in the show notes. It takes 30 seconds and it might be the most important 30 seconds that you spend this week. Now let's get back to the conversation. So now that you're in a place where you like what you're doing for work, you're excited to bring on baby number two,
Uh-huh.
what would you want to say to moms who are like still in the thick of it, still struggling? Maybe the mom who had that really scary emergent C-section or dealing with the breastfeeding challenges. Like, what would you want to say to her to encourage her?
It is so unbelievably hard. But as mothers, we are the absolute strongest humans in the entire world. And
Amen.
it does get better. Like, no matter what, it does get better. Like, I don't know how long it takes. For
Mhm.
me, it took about 10 months before
Okay.
things got better, right?
Okay.
Before I finally felt, they have this saying, I'm sure you've heard it before, like moms get their pink back, right? Like they start,
Mhm.
after a
Yeah. Like the
flamingo has their
flamingos.
baby, they turn white. Yes. Okay. So, mom, you will get your pink back. And the moment that you feel that, and the moment that you start to feel a little bit of that pink, you will look back and you will realize that it will all be worth it. And you just like created this amazing human. And now you are working on getting your pink back and you're starting to feel like a human again yourself. It takes time, but you absolutely will get there. Do not be afraid to ask for that time for yourself because it's just hard. If you need to
Mhm.
cry, just cry. It's
Mhm.
hard, but you will make it through and you have support no matter where you look, there's a world of support around you.
Yeah, lots of good in there. And just the crying part, I feel like sometimes they try to be strong and it's like, no, better out than in. Let it out and ask for the support, ask for the pain meds if you need the pain meds, like
Ask for the
do
pain
what you
meds,
need to
yes.
do.
Don't skip those pain meds.
They are there for a reason. Yes.
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 Yeah.
Good. Well, Jordan, before we wrap up, anything else that you want listeners to know or to hear, or maybe where they can find your business and if they need your services, where they could find you?
Yeah, so we are virtual office partners. You can just go to virtualofficepartners.com and you can send us an inquiry through there. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. Just click a follow would be awesome. If you do end up needing our services, you can definitely reach out to me. I'd be happy to have a conversation. Even if there's any other women out there who have a similar situation and just want somebody to talk to, want some, an ear, want some sympathy, empathy, whatever, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Instagram or you can email me at jordan@virtualofficepartners.com.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jordan. And
Yeah,
I will put your links and your Instagram handle or
perfect.
whatever they call it down in the show notes if somebody wants to find that. So Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Jordan. And I appreciate you sharing your story. You've obviously been through a lot, and Waylon too. And I'm so glad y'all are
Yeah.
doing well and have healed and figured out how to make this all work. And now you're going to make it exciting again with another one. So
Yes.
congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
Wow, Jordan, what a woman and what a story, truly. There is so much in that conversation that I want to sit with, but here are some key takeaways that I want to share with you. So, takeaway number one, set your expectations in writing before your leave begins, not after. Jordan's biggest regret wasn't taking too long to recover or asking for too much. It was not putting her hard stops in place before she went on leave. She answered the phone every time it rang. She sent the baby pictures. She stayed available, and it opened a door she couldn't close. Your maternity leave is yours, so protect it like it is before you ever need to. Takeaway number two, going back to work after loss, even the loss of how you expected things to go, involves grief. Jordan described going through actual stages of grief when she returned to work. Denial, bargaining, all of it. And I think that framing is so helpful because it normalizes what a lot of moms quietly experience without having a name for it. You are not dramatic. You are grieving something real, and that's okay. Takeaway number three, what your employer did during your most vulnerable season will shape how you lead. Jordan is now a business owner herself, and everything she went through directly informs how she shows up for her own team. Pain has a way of becoming policy if you let it. The moms who were failed by their workplaces often become the leaders who make sure it never happens to someone else. Takeaway number four, you will get your pink back. Jordan referenced this idea of moms getting their pink back like a flamingo after having a baby, and it took her about 10 months. 10 months of survival mode, of not feeling like herself, of just getting through, and then something shifted. It will shift for you too. The timeline is not yours to control, but the shift is coming. And as always, just know that if you are suffering, not just struggling, ask for help. It is okay if you need to get that pink back with the support of someone else. Takeaway number five, ask for the pain meds. I say this with all the love in the world. Jordan refused pain medication after an emergency C-section, and she will be the first to tell you that was not the move to make. You are not weak for needing help. You just had a baby. Take the support that is offered to you, physical, emotional, all of it. If this episode meant something to you, please follow or subscribe wherever you're watching or listening, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, so you never miss an episode. And share it with a mom who needs to hear Jordan's story. I really believe the right person finding this at the right moment can change something for her. And a review of the show helps more women find this show, which is everything to me. So thank you. Next week, I have a conversation that is going to feel a little different, a little lighter, a little more in the thick of it right now. And I can't wait to introduce you to her. Till next time, take care of yourself, be well, and I'll see you next week.